Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and with me is Roman Cabanac from Morning Shot. I'm sure all of
And
you
Freedom
know.
from Plus.
I'm sure all of you. I'm sure all of you know who Roman Cabanac is, and apparently, yes. I don't know if anybody's seen in the news. That was funny, dude. That was so funny. That article, like members of Freedom Front Plus. I was like, Roman, how did you not tell me?
No, but the worst part is the SABC stole my own photo from my Twitter and used it for as the main picture for their article. I won't swear too much on the show. And then they just assumed that I was a member because I was just hanging out with the leaders of the Freedom Plus. Like I was at the public manifesto launch. It's a public event. I'm allowed to be there. Like I didn't sneak in. I don't have to be like extra VIP slam terug kind of guy. Like, people can just go. And I did. And now people are saying I'm part of the Freedom Front Plus, which is not a bad thing. I'm not against the Freedom Front Plus, but really, the fake news in this country is out of control.
Well, I hope you did some fact checking on it, and it was. I noticed that when they credited the photo, they just said from Twitter. Like
Yeah. 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 Twitter's sent it to them somehow.
they didn't even have the balls to say Ramon Cabanac or anything like that. That was funny. But anyway, how are you?
I'm very good. Trying to eke out a living in the shit show called South Africa, and yeah, carrying on. No complaints. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else
Of
if I'm
course.
honest. So life goes on here. Good.
Well, we're gonna get into that a bit later. But what I wanted to chat to you about, and as the title of this show says, democracy, yay or nay? Because a few times on your show, you've said that you don't like democracy, you're against it, you think it's failed, you think it's a wishy-washy ideology, and I want to know more about that. Like I grew up. I kind of, maybe I'm naive, but I kind of have hope for democracy. Not in South Africa. I think South Africa has gone a different direction and is going a different direction. But I think democracy as itself, as an ideology and as something for people to strive towards, is not a bad thing. Your thoughts?
Why?
Well, because I mean, it gives the power to the people.
No, it doesn't.
It's supposed to.
So what?
We've had it before in human history. I would agree with you in some points that like today we don't see a lot of successful democracy countries, but one could argue, oh, it's corruption of the elites and all that stuff, and then I would kind of sound like the socialists who say that communism never really happened or never really existed or isn't real, and we need to try it again. But
I mean, listen, democracy is real, but it just supplants itself onto things that existed before and then takes credit for it.
explain.
Well, I mean, people voting, that's been happening way before ancient Greece. The Vikings had various things in that regard. The notion that a state or a point of authority protects the rights of the people underneath it. Okay, yes, that was like sort of every empire before the nation state. All democracy has done is given. How can I phrase this in a way that won't get you banned? All that democracy has done is give power to people who don't actually want or need or know what to do with that power in the first place.
Well, that's something I can't agree with. But then, is it really democracy or is it totalitarianism?
Well, no, it's democracy. Nice. What's H.L. Mencken? What did he say? I forgot what he said. It's like when people want something and they get it like straight and true. No, democracy is exactly what we see at the moment. Every single outcome of any Western state or South Africa over the past 100 years is a consequence of democracy at the end of the day. And we've had one of the most violent centuries we have ever known as human beings, especially in the 20th century. And a lot of those people actually voted into power, and a lot of those people did what they did with the full consent of the people that voted them into power in the first place. And now we get to a more surreptitious effect of democracy, especially in the 21st century, where democracy exist within the state, but all the enforcement of bullshit laws are outsourced to big corporates. So that's also a deep essence of democracy, if not, it's very close to fascism, but I mean, the people still vote at the end of the day. So if you are a fan of democracy, just take a look around you, especially in South Africa, and say, this is great. We'll be fine. Nothing's wrong. We,
No, I think in South Africa we were told a lie. It was painted as democracy, but I don't think there is democracy in South Africa. But do you think that maybe democracy stops with the people?
democracy only works in certain situations. It works in nation states or communities with a small amount of people. It works if people need to organize social life around various rituals or symbols or things like that. It doesn't work when it is compounded and expanded to incorporate in this country 60 million people who speak 12 different languages and who have wildly different conceptions of what justice is. That's tyranny. That
Yeah.
is imperialism. When you enforce the centrally planned constitution, which is not good faith, which, by the way, I didn't agree to have that as a supreme law of the land. The elites did, right? And that was important somehow. But all we're doing is we are enforcing a copy of the Canadian Constitution onto people who are not Canadian in the first place, and then expect them to miraculously become democratic. And then you wonder why, political parties keep winning the amount of votes that they do. Because most people in this country are not Democrats. Most people in this country have no idea what their rights and responsibilities are as citizens of South Africa. So I think it's been a failure all around, especially here. But you'll see, I think we in the declining phase of Western style liberal democracy globally, and we'll see that rapidly accelerating.
Well, I was doing a bit of research in preparation for this stream, and I did find that a lot of articles were saying that there is a decline in democracy worldwide. It's scary though, because like where are we headed? If I mean, we were again when I was a teenager growing up learning history, I was told democracy is a good thing. It gives power to the people, and now fine, maybe we're learning that it doesn't do that. Where do you think we're headed?
Um, I think the democratic states will turn into authoritarian states, and but then not for long though, not for long. Essentially, I think at the end of the day, we'll all become techno-feudal states. So we'll use modern technology to go back to the feudal system, essentially. And that would mean using modern technology like 3D printing, building a house for 30,000 Rand with whatever plastic molds. And we will know that the returns on violence for the state is diminishing greatly because, ironically, the free market has given immense power to individuals and communities to actually build alternatives to state power. A lot of people stay in a state or in a democratic state because the returns on violence are too high. So if you go against that state, I mean, they just shoot you or they send you to jail or they, try you for not paying your taxes or, that nonsense. Now there are so many ways to evade all of those things. The state is losing power in real time as we speak at the moment because there is alternative technology to build alternative things to the state. We can have justice on the blockchain, right? We can have record keeping of laws on the blockchain as well. We can use Bitcoin as a currency. We don't, we don't need them for roads. They got electricity because we got grid. We can have boreholes. We can purify our own water. So at the end of the day, what we will see is a end of the nation state and a decline. Not really a decline. I actually approve of this. Going back to feudalism, but with the modern technology that we have. So it will. That's really my answer. Techno-feudalism, it's called.
Interesting. And I guess it's not doesn't sound that bad the way you described it. But I mean, what happens to governments? They just non-existent.
Oh no, they will still exist like somewhere. Like there'll be a figment of our imagination somewhere. We know that somewhere in Pretoria there's a person in this building that we call the president, and he talks about reparations for greenhouse gases or something at the UN. But like we don't actually give a shit at all
Well, it's kind of like what's
because
happening now,
they
to be
have no
honest.
exactly. They have no real power. At the end of the day, the only power, especially in South Africa, the only power the ANC has is the power we give them through our minds. That's
That
all it
is true.
is.
That is true.
But these people are incapable of running an economy in the 1920s, let alone the 2020s. And they will not. They just cannot keep in power at all. Everything's going against them in this regard. So, I mean, the nation state will still exist on paper, but in reality, not really.
And do you think the ANC will allow this though? I mean, like for us to kind of, I've heard you and Franz Cornier speak about, and by the way, Franz Cornier will be on my show next week. And I'll be
Nice.
discussing more or less the same concept here. But I'm very curious to know where South Africa is going to be in the next 10 years. And, ANC is all about selling democracy, democracy, democracy. Again, I don't believe that the ANC is democratic in any way, shape, or form. But it's interesting to know where, or to theorize where South Africa will be in the next 10 years. So you say enclaves, and we're going to basically build communities, rely on ourselves, network with individuals that are like-minded and such. And the state will just kind of be like the government will just kind of be there. Is that how I understand it?
Yeah, it'll be existing, and they'll say all these speeches and pass laws that no one will follow, and so it's like KFAB, it's like with WWE,
Yeah,
right? Like everyone knows it's nonsense. Like all the stories are bullshit. Like the moves are real to some extent, but they don't really, try to hurt each other or kill each other in the ring. Everyone knows it's a play,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but because everyone knows it's a play, they all enjoy the play. That's what that's what a government will be, and already
Interesting.
is to some extent.
Yeah, so theater, in other words. Um, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that the ANC will just kind of sit back and not want to invade these enclaves and be like, no, you will pay taxes, you will do this, you will do that.
What are they going to do? Are they going to send the army with no food again?
They might.
With no food? The army
Probably.
comes, you basically buy them food or give them food, and then they'll just fight for you. I mean, the ANC has missed the most basic element of being authoritarian, which is feed the army. They can't even do that, Joe. So, do you think they're going to invade the Western Cape when it becomes independent? No.
Hey, it might
Oranya's
not
been here.
be.
Oranya's been here for 30 years and it's still existing. Come now.
Well, okay, fine, fair enough on the Orania point, but I mean, I don't know if you saw what happened this past weekend on Sea Point, with the bullying from the SAPs on innocent civilians who were having a peaceful protest.
Yep,
Seems like they were
and that is
making an example.
no, that is weakness on behalf of SAPs because some police officer said those people were arrested for contravening disaster regulations. Meanwhile, Cyril, in the same day, is at a rally with 3,000 people with no masks.
Yep, this is
So
true.
it's actually a sign of weakness that the SAPs injure and assault old ladies in Sea Point.
Yep.
Not a sign of power, a sign of weakness.
But also maybe it's that's what concerns me is like the corruption and all this stuff. Like if we were to do enclaves and have our own communities, what's to stop SAPs from trying to break into these enclaves and use brute force, water cannons, and tear gas to break down these enclaves?
You shoot back with bullets.
So civil war.
That's not civil war, it's self defense. It's my property, it's my property rights. This is an illegal act perpetuated by the state. It's called self defense. The average SAPS police officer, and God bless them, there are quite a few who are very good and who have a lot
Yeah.
of respect for, but as an entity, SAPS is useless. The average officer shoots 10 to 12, no, 10 to 20 rounds a year in training because they can't afford any more bullets. These people are not, with absolute respect to them, they are not the epitome of fitness, strategy, and counterintelligence at all. I don't think we have anything to worry about.
Okay. I just quickly want to go to some of the comments before, because there are some people commenting. There are some questions. I will get to them towards the end of the stream. So if you have any questions, do give the questions and I will get to them at the end of the stream. Germ Warfare is in the house. Hello, Germ. Good to see you on, well, kind of on YouTube again.
Hey, Jerem. That means hold on. That means he has a YouTube channel that no one knows about.
No,
If he
I
can still
think
comment, right?
it does, but I think it's the one that's inactive, for lack of a better word. Not that it's been
Oh,
taken down; he just doesn't post to it.
all right, fair enough.
He says democracy is dead. We're heading towards a technocracy, which is pretty much what you said. Helen Duplessis saying hello, gents. Deborah Oliver saying hello, gents, or hello, lads.
Joe, please, it's Olivier. Get it
Olivier,
right.
sorry.
I know you're a Yank, but really, no. You've been here for a long time. You should be able to know these things.
Sorry, Ramon or Roman Cabanac. A South African Horror Story, 1994 to 2021. That's an interesting comment there. And then yes, Siri says, nay for democracy. Too many low IQ, misinformed, or uniformed people get to vote. Fair enough.
Uninformed. Sorry, Joe.
Uninformed. Even reactionary opinions are here. There's some familiar faces are in the house. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Monarchy for the win. Absolutely. Reactionary opinion is completely right. Monarchy is far better than democracy. It has been around far longer. And there is an incentive for the king or the monarch to perpetuate the monarchy so they don't screw around with the population too much. Unlike a Democrat. Democracy is a 5-year cycle. Monarchy is centuries long cycle. So kudos to monarchies. They built this world as we know it.
This is true. But the monarchy in England doesn't seem to have much of an effect anymore.
Queen Elizabeth II is a classy Kardashian, as Curtis Yarvin once said. She is the queen, and she has absolutely no power. And what little power she does have, she actually has extreme power to veto any piece of legislation emanating from Parliament. And she refuses to do that. The last time it was used was in 1689 or something. Basically, what happened was William of Orange, the Dutch king, came over to England, took over the throne from the Stuarts, and then gave effect to the Magna Carta, and then gave effect to there was an act that actually created Parliament. So basically, William of Orange destroyed monarchy in the West because he gave power to the peasants. And imprisoned and killed the Stuart family, who were the rightful heirs to the throne. I think Mary Stuart was the last one. So since then, the monarchy exists in practice, well, in theory, but in practice, they classy Kardashians. They sit around and have nice dinners and wear their ball gowns and have sex with underage children and whatever else they do.
Okay, now the YouTube channel's going to get banned.
I don't have. Prince Andrew can come sue me. The evidence is out there.
I think, is there a monarchy that exists now that isn't actually, like, that actually controls a state?
Eswatini.
Okay, all right.
Thailand.
Thailand?
Well,
really?
Thailand. Well, yeah. If you shit on the Thai king, you go to jail. Like if you draw funny pictures on his face, you go to jail. I don't know if you've been to Thailand. I went there
No.
for one night. I was in Malaysia, then went to Thailand, and then I went to a barber. You go to the barber, the man's dressed in chinos and a shirt. There's a picture of the king, and then next to the picture of the king are topless women. And basically every single male establishment has a picture of the king and then like topless women next to it. Pretty great.
Okay. Interesting. I think, no, I haven't been to Thailand, and I don't know. Okay, do you think a monarchy would work in South Africa?
I was working for the Zulus. If the Zulu king had any balls, he would say, "This is my people. We'll secede tomorrow."
I wish he would.
There's a lot of tribal chiefs around, which are sort of semi-monarchies. And don't forget, every functional structure that exists for a long time in the universe is a monarchy, whether it's a business, whether it's a family, whether it is a community. Those that take on all the elements and aspects and characteristics of monarchy are the ones that survive. Those who try to be democratic die. and there's
Interesting.
a lesson in that, right? Name one company where there isn't a CEO and a CFO and a hierarchy that
Hmm.
has lasted for longer than however, whatever, a decade or two. I
No,
can't think of many.
I agree with you on that. There's definitely is a hierarchy in businesses and stuff, and I think there should be. This ideology that the some of these socialists have that everybody must be equal is just stupid.
That's
Um,
exactly my point against democracy. Why is everyone equal? I don't want to be equal. There are people that are 10, like 1,000 times better at plumbing than I am. We're not equal. My political analysis is probably 1,000 times better than theirs. That doesn't make me better or them worse, just different.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
not equal. I
yeah.
have no aspiration of being equal to anyone else at all. And no one should have aspiration to be equal to anyone else either.
Mm.
That is the biggest myth that democracy lies on. We are not equal. We're not meant to be equal. And inequality is actually the goal.
I thought democracy is more about equal rights than necessarily being equal people, because equal people to me is like communism. Or is democracy and communism the same?
The difference between monarchy and communism is, I mean, not monarchy, sorry, democracy and communism is about 50 years.
Interesting. Okay.
The Soviet Union died in 1990 due to its own internal contradictions, and the returns of violence would tapered off dramatically when they ran out of money. Democracy is the same. I mean, the only reason America is still a democracy to some extent is that it has $20 trillion in debt to pay for its coalition that keeps it in power. And that's the civil service and that's the military. That's the
Mm.
only reason it's a democracy. Not because people go vote every 5 years and then the election itself is stolen at the end of the day. Yeah, to call America a democracy even now, after Donald Trump lost that last one. Oh, no, you'll, okay, yeah, you'll definitely get banned if I say that. Yeah, it's like I mean, it has the facade of being a democracy, but at the end of the day, it's not a real democracy at all.
Yeah.
It only exists because it's able to borrow money to feed and bribe the people that keep it in power, and those are the deep state,
Mm.
the bureaucrats, the military, and the civil service.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to move on from this conversation because you just said every trigger word in YouTube's community guidelines. But very quickly, Deborah Olivier gave 140 Rand super chat saying yes to Enclaves. Woohoo! All right, thank you so much, Deborah, for the 140 Rand super chat. Is greatly appreciated. Germ saying he will make a terrible king, and I agree with that. Germ, I would
I agree
never.
with I 100% agree with that, Jim. I think it's very important. I mean, the fact that Jim knows his limitations makes him better than 99% of other people out there. So kudos to you, Jim. Kudos to you.
Exactly. And just before okay, yeah. And then reactionary opinion saying everything in democracy is a Trojan horse. Okay, I guess so. All right, so moving on. I did also want to chat to you about. Okay, well, before we move on, very quickly, democracy, yay or nay? You're going to stick with nay. I am undecided because you made some good points, but I don't know. I still feel that there's something there, and I maybe it's because of the way I was, what I was taught in school. Democracy to me was always about giving power to the people, not necessarily making everyone equal, but giving them equal rights and
Now,
stuff like that.
listen, Joe, power to the people these days means you have a Netflix account and you can be locked down in your home and you can eat your bugs and live in a pod and own nothing and be free. Like, that's power to the people. Power to the people is stripping out every single economic center in your country, export that to China, and then they sell us cheap washing machines in return. Like, that is to be free. To be free is to be on YouTube or watch YouTube channel and indulge in your passion for knitting through YouTube and watch Netflix and be atomized individual that doesn't give a shit about the state or God or anyone else other than yourself. Welcome to democracy. It creates the loneliest, most depressed individuals the world has ever known, who have all the material wealth possible, yet are incredibly obese, incredibly unhappy. And then to turn for salvation, they post pictures of their nudie bits on OnlyFans and make lots of money. I mean, this is the result of democracy. It is degenerate. All of it. It's just pure. This would never happen under Louis the 14th. This never happens in North Korea. This will never happen in China. China banned simps, Joe. They ban simps. And then they export the technology to create simps to America and then ban it at home. Like, that is politics 101. China will be here, America will not, because America likes simps, China bans simps. China created the technology, i.e., TikTok, that creates the simps in the first place. Democracy equals simping for bullshit. China's the future. maybe not the last one, but still.
All right. Well, I think. All right. No. Hold on. All right. So I don't know. It's like, to me, you're talking about progression, and I think we, as a society, have maybe take progression a bit too far. That I'll agree with you on. All these
It's
people
endemic. It's endemic.
you could still have a democratic society without being too progressed, if I can put it that way.
Okay. Tell me this. What has conservatives conserved in the past 100 years?
Germ, help me out. He'll know. I'm asking a
Zero.
friend.
Zero. Fuck all. Zero. They have conserved nothing. Abortion's illegal. All the drugs you want are legal. The church and the state is very, very separate. In fact, the church is so separate that Harvard has appointed a chaplain who is an atheist. Right?
That's a problem.
I mean, Monty Python couldn't write this, but it is a reality today. And that is the effect of democracy. It is progressivism 101. There is no difference between democracy and progressivism in the slightest. They are the same thing. Democracy is just the medium through which progressivism carries on. It doesn't exist in Russia. It doesn't exist in Belarus. It doesn't exist in Hungary. It doesn't exist in North Korea. That's not a great example. But it doesn't exist in all these authoritarian countries who, funny enough, didn't lock down their populations during COVID-19. Isn't that weird? All the supposedly liberal free democracies of the West, they locked down quicker than something. I don't know what example to use.
Speedy
But all the
Gonzalez.
all the all the authoritarian, those terrible authoritarian countries in Eastern Europe didn't lock down whatsoever. Despite immense amount of pressure, immense amount of bribes, they didn't lock down. But democracy is better somehow.
Fair enough. I've been lawyered. Interesting statement from Germ saying democracy is a gateway to communism. I thought socialism was a gateway to communism, but okay.
No, that's not the gateway to communism, it's worse. It's the gateway to progressivism.
Okay. So progressivism. So I'm learning things here. Progressivism is like that utopian, everyone's free, everyone can do what they want, everyone's equal kind of thing. Like, that's eventually what it will go to, right?
Progressivism is predicated on the idea that history is dead and we should forget all of it, and the future is brighter and utopian, and we should always, always, always just bury whatever we did in history. It was racist, it was wrong, it was, or, everything in history was slavery or racism at the end of the day. Whereas a true conservative would say, these things, marriage, for example, or faith, or whatever, has lasted for 10,000 years. Maybe there's something to it that you can't really explain with a scientific paper. How about that? Maybe there's something metaphysical about these things that allowed our ancestors to live for so many centuries due to it. Maybe there's something there that we can't prove. Maybe we don't have to prove at all. That's true conservatism. But of course, conservatism these days is about bullshit tax policy and whether a he is a she or he's a zer. Like, that is conservatism in the 21st century, and it's degeneracy as well. To be honest, it is one of the greatest frauds this world has ever known.
Well, I hope not. But I think you make some very valid points there, and I agree with them. I just, people are going quite crazy in the chat, so they're asking me to ask you a ton of things. So I just want to get to that. Landon is asking, ask Roman if he dislikes democracy is like asking Ronaldo if he doesn't want super chats.
You see, democracy bought us super chats and Ronaldo. So there you go. What's the difference between Ronaldo and OnlyFans account? Not much.
And then Willem wants to ask, what is Roman's alternative to democracy? I think you explained that earlier, but in brief.
Yeah, techno-feudalism. Basically, you decouple from the estates, from the state entirely by being completely self-reliant, and hopefully by having cultural values that permeate to a few hundred people at best, and then you build something nice together.
Yeah. And then reactionary opinion saying progression is degeneracy. That's what you said.
Correct.
He also wants to know what's Ramon's thoughts on reformation. Can you
I don't know
first
enough about it.
explain? Oh, okay. What is
Well,
reformation?
the Reformation was when Martin Luther. I actually heard a whole podcast, a great one, a 6-hour podcast on this.
Wow.
Basically, the church split into the Protestants and the Catholics. If I'm not mistaken, reactionary opinions. If I'm wrong, let me know. But basically, as far as I know, the reformers they were like sort of lefty anarchists of the day, very radical. But I don't know enough about it to have an informed opinion.
All right. And then Avron is asking, uh, ask Ramon how governments thrive in Switzerland, New Zealand, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Luxembourg, and Canada and Norway.
Very simple. I would disagree with Canada. That's a shithole, and New Zealand's
Yeah.
also a shithole. So here it is: Switzerland, canton system, very decentralized democracy, and all is based on referendum. So great. What are the other ones? The other ones basically had homogeneity of culture, were very close societies, high trust societies. So a lot of the public representatives in the democratic era are people very much like the people they lord over, and it's just a cultural thing at the end of the day. It really is, and small populations. Norway's what, 5-6 million people. Sweden, 7 million people, somewhere around there. These are relatively small populations, and if 60% of them agree with the basic premise of an extensive welfare state and the basic premise that free market capitalism works, you can have a great society, which is slowly fraying now due to immigration. But that's really a cultural thing that democracy has once again supplanted itself onto after the fact.
Okay. And Helen's asking, how do we stop progressivism?
Decouple, build something beautiful, find like-minded people, build it together.
Fantastic. Or keep watching Morning Shot because that's what you basically advocate for on your channel. All right, cool. So we can move on. Thank you guys for the questions. I will get back to some of the questions after our next topic. So the next topic is Cape secession. And Ramon, you haven't been shy about that. I haven't been shy about that. We both support it. We both want it, and we definitely support Cape independence movement. I guess what I wanted to ask you, being an analyst and in my opinion, really good at what you do you think Cape independence is a reality? Do you think we're going to see it within the next 10 years?
I don't know about 10 years, but I think it will be a reality, and it won't be a reality through the rule of law. It will be a reality de facto, because the rest of the country is just going to fall into a ball of shit. It already is to a large degree. And then sooner or later, even the Cougars in Canada will be like, I don't want to be like that Limpopo place or whatever the case might be. So it will be a reality. How far it's gone in 18 months is remarkable. I spoke to the head of the Cape Party in 2017, and people were like, "This is such a bullshit thing. Like, this will never ever happen." In the last 18 months, especially with the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, along with the Freedom Front Plus, who agree with the idea, basically secession is basically techno-feudalism at a provincial level. I think it will decentralize even more, but it will happen naturally by itself. It's fine to pursue the referendum and all that other legal nonsense, but at the end of the day, it will happen when the people want it to happen.
And do you think Helen Zilla is right when she says it will lead to like a civil war?
No, civil war with who?
Well, there are some people, especially the naysayers, and I've discussed this with a few friends of mine. Everyone says the ANC is going to make sure that it doesn't happen by either flooding in people to vote against the referendum, or like we saw in the People's War, just a lot of violence. pressure.
Yeah, they've tried that already. It's nothing new. We are aware of these challenges. We are aware of these invading forces that might come into the independent Republic of the Cape of Good Hope, and we'll deal with them accordingly.
Spoken like a true president.
That won't stop it. It's yeah, but what is there to say? The ANC can't keep the lights on, guys. Like really, your the way you think about them is like so far removed from who they really are. It's sometimes astoundingly shocking
Explain.
how much competence people think the ANC actually has to do anything. They can't keep the lights on. They can't feed their army. Which army is going to work
This is
if you're
true.
not fed? I
Yeah,
mean, come now.
which army is going to come and try and keep Western Cape inside when they're hungry? No.
And believe me, you just take the gangs in the Cape Flats. You give them 10,000 rand a month, and you say you go protect the borders. They will fuck up anything that comes by.
Oh
Much more
yeah.
battle hardened, much better armed, much better strategy. We already got a militia group, more, however many there are. Just bribe them, and they'll work for you. Simple.
Apparently, Vut Zarka is saying more than 10 callers into SAFM regarding Phil Craig versus EFF on secession were triggered. Lol. We used to be one country. We must be one country, sorry, with trembling voices.
Yeah, we must be one. The same people that say drive all the white men to the sea who want to be one country. All of a sudden, listen, if you support the country of South Africa, you're supporting an imperialist project. The British government had to send 500,000 soldiers to make this place a state. Before it was 4 independent states, they would never have come together as one state ever, ever, ever. The British had to do it through force, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. So, if you are worried about, if you're worried about what is the term that they use? Privilege. Yeah, let's talk about ANC privilege, who is stepping on the bodies of millions of people through the war that created this republic, and now are using this very republic to pursue their own agenda. That's the real privilege. The ANC is protecting a colonial construct. And anyone else who does it is also defending a colonial construct. I'm all for decolonization in this regard, and I think we should pursue it full force.
I I think Cape secession, in my opinion, might happen sooner. I agree with you wholeheartedly that Cape Independence Advocacy Group have done tremendous work in the past 18 months alone, more so than the Cape Party itself, which kind of is embarrassing for the Cape Party. I have no animosity towards Jack. I think he's a great guy. We're good friends. But yeah, I don't know why they slack a little bit when it comes to pushing that movement forward. What would you have done differently?
I mean, it's difficult to say. I mean, I'm not here to slate anyone. If I'm honest, I think the polling is vitally important. You must use the elements of democracy to show what you want to happen, right? Even though democracy is absolute bullshit, as we know. But you must use whatever a normal party would do or a normal state would do to find out something and to act upon the results of that thing. The polling was a masterclass, a real
Yes.
masterclass. Proper polling, expensive polling, properly done. That was really great. That should have been done a long time ago. And also the DA, as soon as it got to power in 2006 or in 2009, they got full power. They should have immediately started to decentralize all the essential state services, and they didn't do it.
Apparently they can't. I get two different stories about that. Some say they can, some say they can't. Do you know anything about that? Can they
Yeah,
decentralize?
Donald Trump could never have won the US presidential election, and he did. I hate this notion that, oh, they can't, the law says this, the law says that. I don't give a shit what the law says. Just do it. Find a way. Go to court. Get a constitutional amendment. Do whatever the hell you can. This is like nonsense about, oh, we can't do it under the precepts of the ANC. The ANC want you dead.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, like, do you think concentration camp survivors were like, oh, the Nazis want me dead, I'll just stay in my concentration camp until that happens? No, it's against the law to run away from concentration camps. They still went and did it. like, I know it's a terrible analogy, but really, this notion of you have to wait for permission for anything is bollocks, and as we've seen the results thereof, absolute bollocks.
Well, I think Keep Secession, like I said, will happen hopefully in the next 10 years. Are you planning to? I mean, you don't have to say if you are or not, but
Yes.
I'm just curious. Are you okay? So you will move to Cape Town.
No, Cape Town's a shithole. Outside of Cape Town,
Okay. So, like, what?
I think
Wellington.
Cape Town is full of Cape Town is lit- Cape Town is literally full of beggars, cougars, and gangsters. Like, I don't want any part of it, and worst of all, politicians. So I'm staying well away from that. I'm not going to dox myself, but I'm looking at several places.
All right, cool. I think, what else could I tell you? Well, it would be nice if you do live somewhere nearby, because we could all, finally have that right wing cabal meeting, without spending too much money on flights. Me, you, and Germ.
Just the three of us. That's the only cabal there is, really.
You know how they are. Brett Sesums, sorry, giving a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. I can pay rent at the end of the month. Cyril says ESCOM will solve load shedding. Haha. No, no. He's been saying that since 2018. No.
2015, my friend. He was head of the war room to solve ESCOM in 2014 or 2015.
Yeah, even worse. No. Anyone who thinks Cyril is a savior, I mean, come on, Roman, give me your absolute honest opinion on that. Anyone, these Cyril simps, what do you honestly think about them?
These are the people that would gladly liquidate other people in the name of ideology if they could. They are, yeah. That I think I'll just leave it there. They're either mortally retarded, or have an agenda that's that suits them. But I think the former rather than the latter. These are
I
not clever people.
No, and also these are the people that the moment shit hits the fan are the first ones out of the country. I think.
Yeah, half of them probably have second passports already.
Yeah.
No, no. I mean, the problem is these people think we live in a democracy. Like, we think like this is like Monaco or something, right? Just follow the rule of law. Don't worry, reform's coming because there's like lots of infrastructure and lots of poor people who earn 10 rand an hour to build a bridge that no one cares about. Like, that is the economic recovery plan. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Or
Like, it's not even worth commenting on because it is so pathetic.
applauding a 15 million rand stadium that has a patch of grass. Marbane has joined us and saying, "I'm just waiting for the Oppenheimers to become a political issue." Oh, really?
So of course, I follow Rob on Twitter quite a bit, and he had very interesting revelations about the Oppenheimers. Rob, I think you should write a nice long article about these elite families that maybe not run the country. I don't know if people know enough about them. I actually know a granddaughter of the Oppenheimers. She used to live in the same building as I did years ago, and she was fairly normal. I mean, she had a grand apartment in the building. Don't get me wrong, but not no airs and graces to her. But I don't know enough about the Oppenheimers, and I think Rob should really write a very long and detailed article about all the research he's been doing,
I read it.
because there is an element, to me at least, there is an element that, once again, what we think about democracy and how it really looks like in reality are two separate things. And you can have elites that fund both things. I'm very suspicious of the fact that Mary Slack, who is, I cannot remember the sister, I think she's the sister of Nikki Oppenheimer, she gave the DA 15 million rand. That sounds great. She gave the Solidarity Fund set up by Cyril, 1 billion rand. 1 billion. Now, why? Isn't that a bit odd?
That is odd.
Why give a Cyril Simping Solidarity Fund 1 billion rand and give the official opposition 15 million rand? So now, is this maybe an attempt to act like the DA is important, or is this an attempt to act like it's very good to have some form of controlled opposition to all of this? It's just a question.
I'll vote for the latter. Um, Brett Sesmus again giving a $2 super chat saying I'm against Cape secession, but I support a vote for it. Okay, all good. Thanks for the $2 super chat. All right, very quickly as well, because I also wanted to chat to Ramon. We're running out of time. I wanted to chat to Ramon about, and I've kind of, it was Cape secession, and it was, we touched on it a bit earlier just now. You tell people, so this is what I'm just struggling to understand with you, Ramon, right? And this is not a bad thing. I just want to understand.
Yeah.
You constantly criticize ANC, and I applaud you for it. Okay, don't get me wrong. I love your analysis. I think you're great at what you do. I love the morning shot. Huge fan. And you constantly say this country's going to crap. Blah 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 blah. But in the same breath, you say, "But wait, guys, stay. Explain."
Well, only if you think the nation state is worth saving. Right. If your ideal life is being able to walk your dog at 3 a.m. on some shitty street with a 42 square inch or 42 square meter apartment, yeah, go. Have fun to Lockdonistan, wherever you might go. Yeah, have fun. Have fun in a more democratic Western state that is going to be in exactly the same position South Africa will be in South Africa is today, they will be in 30, 40 years. So your children will bear the fruits of your immigration. I'd rather live under incompetent commies any day of the week than competent liberals. The rest of the world are fairly competent liberals, and they're not that competent at the end of the day. But here we are in a unique situation where we know what it feels like to live sort of in a first-class country, and now we know what it feels like to live in a third world country, and we have seen that decline quite drastically in the last 13, 14 years. All other countries will decline at the same time, in a decade or two or three, maybe even less. I mean, they're talking about secession in America at the moment. I don't know if anyone knows that, especially the South.
Yeah.
Basically, we are going to be a blueprint for emergent governance the world over through techno-feudalism. So you can do it here and be a pioneer and show the rest of the world how to do it, or you can move overseas, immigrate there, and let your children have to go through what you're going through right now. I'd rather do it here and make sure my family and my children have a better future here than go elsewhere and let them have to deal with it in the first place. And there are many different political forces and mega political conditions on that side of the world than on this side. Here we actually have so much more control over what happens than what average Aussie does in Australia, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, Australia is a whole nother story. I think what I'm struggling to kind of understand, though, is, okay, so basically what you're saying is, even though the country's shit, like, it's going to get to a point where it's going to stop being shit and we're going to have to, like, decentralize ourselves, forget about the government, we're going to build our own communities, and that's opportunity for us and our future children, correct?
Not we will. We are, like, right now. Like there was load shedding twice today. I didn't even notice it because I have a solar system at all. It means nothing to me. Load shedding, like nothing whatsoever. All you have to do is wean yourself off the state, wean yourself off this idea that they are very important and that they actually matter. Like, listen, when people say there's no foreign direct investment in the country, yeah, that's true. And does it move my left testicle from my right testicle? Not a fuck. Like, I'm still making money. You're still making money. I'm making a lot more money this year than I did last year. I think maybe you too. One hopes. There's opportunity abounds in this country because we live under an incompetent tyranny. Like, I don't think people really understand how great that is. Try have this conversation in Australia
Oh, you think we won't
or,
be
or
allowed to have this
Britain.
conversation in Australia?
Not, I'm not saying democracy is a fraud and we should do away with it. I don't think so. I don't think so. And besides, the state is shit, but the people are great. I don't
That
know
is
about
true.
you, but I love my fellow South Africans. I don't care what color you are. I don't care where the fuck you come from. I've been across this country a few times. Never had a problem.
No, I
Not a
agree.
problem. The only problem I have is when like there's crime, when I was if there's people entering my house or things like that. But I've been to small towns, I've been to big towns. Some are shitty, some are great. The people of South Africa are generally great people. They're modest, they're pragmatic, they're centrist. They care about their families for the most part. Those who do have them. So the people are fine. I mean, the politics and the state itself is completely shit, but everything else is fine.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you and I traveled in KZN together for over a weekend, and it was a great amount of fun. We met some interesting people. Some were very friendly people, and I'll leave it at that. But yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I think South Africans are definitely some of the best people on the face of the planet. And I think Deborah said it beautifully here. I love my country. I just despise the ANC, and I mean, yeah, that
Yeah.
summarizes what you just said.
I mean, I don't think my country should exist, but I get your point.
Yeah. All right, so we got 9 minutes left. I'm gonna look at some of the comments that have been coming through. Let's see. This Avron asked earlier. I'd love to hear your guys touch on Cape Independence discussion, which we already have done, and of course the horrors we as South Africans will be facing after this. Give us another chance elections. I'm going with the DA. So the second part, I guess you can comment on the elections.
I'm not too sure what horrors we'll face after these elections. I don't think these elections will have a major role to play in anything at all. Most people seem rather apathetic, and most people, by the way, are not Democrats. They refuse to vote either because they're lazy or they just don't feel like voting. And I say, well, kudos to them, I suppose. I don't know what horrors we will face after these elections. I don't see any reason for there to be horrors.
Cool. All right. Kaketso Rosani, who's going to be on my show as well next week. Better to be under the boot of an ANC that can't execute on its grand ideals of idiocy than an ANC that can actually deliver on communism. Agreed.
Absolutely. I said long time ago on Renegade Report, my former podcast, that if the ANC was competent, we would be Venezuela. And we're
That's
certainly not.
that's actually something I wanted to ask. So, like, you keep on saying the country's gonna, fall apart. Do you really think we're gonna be able to build societies if we're in like a Zimbabwe kind of Venezuela situation?
No, I mean, we already are. There's a lot of white ghettos called estates up in, where you play golf and shit on. I don't know why people would want to live there. Seems horrible. The Zulu Kingdom is independent. The Cape Flats is relatively independent. Yeah, I mean, people are getting poorer. Yeah, I agree. But so what? You can still find strong, reliant communities everywhere in the world, mostly in Africa. They don't have to be rich. They just need to be a bit strategic and have a skill for survival. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that you're going to build your estate and everyone's going to have whatever, solar panels, and you're going to have Netflix for everyone to see. No, like, it's going to be hard. It's hard work, but rather do it than not.
Yeah. And very quickly, for someone who, well, you kind of mentioned it earlier, someone who wants to decentralize from the state, they get their own solar panel, they get, a JoJo tank. I'm guessing. Do you have a JoJo tank?
I've got a very small one.
Okay. And how else can one decentralize from the state?
Importantly, it's mindset, and also to buy locally. Like do as many things locally as possible, stimulate the local economy. Because believe me, if Checkers comes in and takes over the Portuguese greengrocer, checkers are not going to make sure the payment is swept like the greengrocer does. They're not going to make sure that it's clean. They're not going to make sure that the car guards have uniforms on. Checkers doesn't give a shit about any of that. But the greengrocer, who has skin in the game, does. So support that person. Support your local hairdresser, your local coffee shop, your local restaurants. The local economy is around you within 5 kilometers. We try to buy most of our stuff from one particular street close to us, which is one of the only streets in Joburg that is sort of semi-walking. So you can actually walk on the pavement, and there's shops all along the street. Great shops, independent shops, and tend to buy most of our stuff over there. So that's also a good way because if those places go, if the economic hub of your street or your suburb goes, nothing else would exist.
I think that's solid advice. Well, Roman, we got 5 minutes left. Is there anything? Sorry, Sean sent a message here saying, "Vote with your dollars." Is there anything you want to say before we go?
All I can say is slang terug. I'm proud to be the new CEO of the Freedom Fire Plus. And that's not all. That's not all. Check at that. Check at that.
Wait, hold on. Keep it there.
There we go. Full on. Full on.
Where are you gonna put that? Where are you gonna hang it up behind you?
I was thinking of actually putting it in my car. During these elections.
Your tires are gonna get slashed. I'm telling you.
By who?
Someone.
Who messes with Dr. Groenewald? No one.
What's he like
No
in person?
one.
Is he cool?
Well, I met him for like 5 minutes. So I can't.
okay.
A smart guy. He knows exactly what he's talking about. He seems good. Yeah, nice guy. But I mean, I'm not his friend. Like, I don't go to his house for dinner or something.
Gee, I don't know. That article made it sound like it was like you guys were, tight. Anyway, cool, Roman. Look, I want to say thank you for coming onto the show again and having this. I really felt it was an awesome chat. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, you've given me a lot to think about, man, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for all the work that you do with Morning Shot, and I wish it great success in the future. And anybody who doesn't know Morning Shot, please go subscribe. I highly doubt that you don't, but yeah, just in case.
No, thank you, Joe. I appreciate it, and thanks for allowing considerable divergent opinion onto the show. I mean, really, let's be real here. This conversation could never take place anywhere else in contemporary South African media.
That's true.
I mean, Adrian Basson, the whatever editor of News 24, he wrote today that the IEC is world class.
Oh, God.
And that's not the.
It gets better. Okay.
It gets better. And the IEC could teach the American Electoral Commission a thing or two about how to run an election. So I'm like, first of all, number one, the IEC being world class, bullshit. Number two, Adrian Basson thinks the election was stolen. So pretty based, right?
What? Oh, okay. Cool. Nice. Yeah. Anyway. Speaking of which, if I get banned off YouTube because of this,
oh shit! I forgot about
that. I expect reparations, my friend.
I can. Hey, I'm half Arab, like you, so it's like sort of cancel each other out.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I will be on the show. I will have a show tomorrow with Gwen from DA, the policy creator maker of DA.
Gwen, yeah. Yes. Head of policy, please.
Head of policy.
Head of policy. Tell her I say hi. We haven't spoken in a while.
I will do. She's going to be on the show. I'm going to try and grill her as best as I can about the policies of the DA. And hopefully that'll be a very interesting conversation. So please join. You won't see it at the moment on my channel, but I am going to create it after the show when I'm done here. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and also subscribe to Morning Shot. He's a great guy. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And thank you for all the super chats, guys. I will see you tomorrow. And if I don't see you tomorrow, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.